Hi everyone, how are you? It's time for lecture 5 in semester 3. In this lecture, this week we're going to cover grammar and writing. In grammar, we're going to study verbs, the different types of verbs. We have action verbs, helping verbs, main and linking verbs. Okay, so we are going to study action, helping, and main and linking verbs. So you will identify them. You will identify predicate nouns, predicate adjectives. You will identify. You will recognize the subject-verb agreement. Also, you will form main. You will form the main and helping verbs correctly according to the suitable tenses. Let's start with the action verb. What is an action verb? From its name, action. So when we say something action or expresses an action, we mean that it involves a movement, physical movement. A verb is one of the most important parts of this sentence. Why? Because it tells the subject's actions, events, or state of being. So verbs are very important because they tell what the subject is doing or what the subject is. So it tells the actions of the subjects, the events of the subjects, or the state of being. It's also found in the predicate of a sentence. Also, we can find a verb in the predicates of sentences. A verb that shows action is called an action verb. So the verb that shows physical movement, that shows an action that's happening, so it's called action verb. Examples of action verbs. These words are action verbs like cough. this is this is an action. Swallowed. When you swallow the food, so you're making an action. Ran. Ran. You move your legs to run, so ran is an action verb. Remember, an action verb that describes an action that is happening now is called a present tense verb. This is a reminder for you that the action verb that tells or talks about an action that is happening now is called a present tense verb. The bird flies through the sky. Okay, this is an action. Flies is an action verb, but its tense is in the present. So flies is a present tense verb because it's happening right now, or it happens in the present. Many present tense verbs end with s, but some end with es for ies. This is something not new for you because I know that you have previously covered the simple present tense. When the verb is talking about a singular subject, when we have a singular subject and we have a verb in the simple present tense, then we have to add s, es, or ies. It depends on the ending of the verb. If the verb ends with o, sh, ch, x, or z, then we have to add es. If the verb ends with y and the y is preceded with the consonant letter, then we cross out the y and we add ies. But all the other verbs in the simple present tense take s. Again, I repeat that we add the s, es, or ies to the verb when we are talking about a singular subject. Splashes, for example, takes es because the verb ends with sh. Sleep. Sleeps and cries. Okay, sleeps takes us only cries. The verb cry ends with y originally, and before the y we have r, which is a consonant. Letter. Since I have r before the y, then I have to cross out the y and add. An action verb that describes an action that happened and finished is called a past tense verb. Okay? So the action that talks about the verb that expresses the action that happened in the past is called past tense verb. Example, the bird flew and twittered through the sky. The bird flew and twittered through the sky. So here I have two action verbs, flew and twittered. A twitter, we mean the sound of the bird, the sound that the birds make. Okay, it's called twittering. Okay, so here flew and twittered happened in the past, so I have to write them in the simple past tense. Notice something that flew and twittered are past tense verbs because they happened and finished. Many past tense verbs end with ed, but some change completely. So also this is something not new for you, because as you know that when we want to write the verbs in the simple past tense, some take ed, but others change in a specific way. Okay, they change in a specific way. Either they change completely, or we change only a vowel letter, or sometimes they stay the same. Now we move to the linking verbs. Linking verbs. What are linking verbs? Linking verbs act as an equal sign in this sentence. They act like an equal sign. Why? Because the subject is not doing anything. There is no action here. Okay? The subject is not doing an action. Instead, it is or is like something else in the sentence. So the subject is something or it's like something else that I'm talking about in the sentence. So linking verbs just connect the subject to the predicate. They connect the subject to the predicate. They link. That's why we call them linking verbs. Linking verbs tell us that the subject has a word in the predicate that renames it a noun or describes it an adjective. Okay, in other words, we say that they are equal. So the linking verb, since it connects or it links only the subject to the predicate, then there is another word in the predicate, maybe a noun or an adjective, that talk about the subject itself. Okay, so whenever we have a linking verb, then we should find a noun or an adjective in the predicate that talks about the subject itself. Examples of linking verbs. Linking verbs include the forms of the verb to be. So the first form of the linking verbs is the verb to be. Am is are, was were, be being been. These are the forms of the verb to be. So the verb to be is one of the linking verbs. Not only the verb to be is one of the linking verbs. We have other verbs that do not express actions. Again, I repeat, they do not express physical movement. They do not express actions like tastes, smells, looks, feels, sounds, seems, and even we still have more and more the verbs, linking verbs that you're going to face through while studying English. So the linking verb just connects the subject to the predicate. It doesn't include any action or any physical movement. There's an important note that you have to pay attention to. A linking verb will always have a word in the predicate that it links to the subject. So always, always, always. Yes, always. Let's see how linking verbs work in some sentences. Linking verbs in action. In action, the trees are beautiful in the fall. Notice something here. The verb is are. It's a verb to be. So here are is a linking verb. What is the subject here? The subject is trees. What do we have after the linking verb? Beautiful in the fall. Ask yourself, who or what is beautiful here? What are we talking about in the sentence? The trees. So the trees are beautiful. Beautiful here belongs to the trees or it talks about trees. In other words, it describes the trees. So here we have an adjective. Beautiful is an adjective and it talks about the subject. Since it comes after the linking verb, we call it a predicate adjectives. And remember that I explained this point before in the adjectives lesson, that whenever we have a linking verb and after the linking verb there is an adjective that describes the subject, that talks about the subject, then we call the adjective predicate adjective. Okay, so here beautiful talks about trees. Okay, so it's called a predicate adjective. The verb are links an adjective in the predicate with the subject. It connects the adjective with the subject, so we call the adjective predicate adjective. Let's have another example. Mr. Noel is the new teacher in the school. What is the verb here? Is what? Is a linking verb. Is a linking verb, so it links the subject to the predicate. Let's see, what's the subject here? The subject is Mr. Noel. What is the connecting to Mr. Noel? Mr. Noel is the new teacher. Teacher, pay attention. Teacher, here we are talking about Mr. Noel. He's the teacher. Okay, so teacher is a noun. Teacher here is a noun, so we call it a predicate noun. You might say, but we have a new. New is an adjective, but here a new describes the teacher. It doesn't describe directly Mr. Noel, it describes the teacher. So teacher is the word that renames or talks about Mr. Noel. Okay, so the noun after the linking verb talks about the subject, so we call it predicate noun. Teacher is a noun in the predicate. Teacher is a noun in the predicate that renames the subject, so we call it a predicate noun. So when you find a noun after the linking verb that talks about the subject, we call it predicate noun because it's found in the predicate. And when we find an adjective after the linking verb that describes the subject itself, then we call it a predicate adjective. Now we move to the helping verbs. What are helping verbs? From their names, helping, so they help. A helping verb works with a main verb. It works with a main verb to help you understand what action is taking place. So here we can deduce that whenever we have a helping verb, then we should have a main verb, because the helping is not the main verb, is not the verb that expresses mainly what the subject is doing. Let's take an example. Elmer was using the computer. Ask yourself here, what is Elmer doing, or what was Elmer doing? Using. So your answer was using. So we can know that using is the main verb because it's the action that Elmer is doing. But was does what here? Was is the helping verb. It helps the main verb. So was here helps the verb using. Was is the helping verb that helps the main verb using. Okay? Other things to keep in mind about helping verbs. Not every sentence will have a helping verb with the main verb. Okay, this is the first one. Not every sentence you read, you must find a helping verb. No, we have a main verb. Okay, but it's not necessary to find a helping verb with it. When do we find a helping verb? When you see an ing verb, when you see a verb with ing, such as running, be on the lookout for a helping verb also. So whenever you find a verb after the subject that has ing, then there should be a helping verb before it. Sometimes there is another word which separates the helping verb from the main verb. One common example is not. Sometimes we find not between the helping verb and the main verb. The boy could not find his socks. Okay, the helping verb here, or let's talk about the main verb first. Ask yourself, what is the boy doing? Could not find. He could not find. Find is the main verb. Okay, we have before the main verb find, we have could and not. Could here is the helping verb, okay, but not is nothing. We do not call it a helping verb. So the helping verb here is only could, and the main verb is find. A sentence may contain up to 3 helping verbs to the main verb. Sometimes we might find the 3 helping verbs with the main verb. Examples: the dog must have been chasing the cat. Must, have, been are the helping verbs, and the main verb is chasing. So you see, we have here 3 helping verbs. Examples of helping verbs: may, might, must, the verb be, being, been, am, is, are, was, were. We use them also as helping verbs. Do, does, did also are used as helping verbs. Example: she does not find the blah blah blah. Does is a helping verb and find is the main verb. Should, could, would, have, had, has. He have built a new house. Have is a helping verb. Built is the main verb. For example, will, can, shall. So guys, now that we have finished from the grammar part, you can go to your grammar ISI booklet part 2 to solve the exercises related to your lesson. The exercises start page 44, but before this page you would find the explanation also. Now it's time to move to the writing, which is problem solution paragraph. Reminder: An expository paragraph is a group of sentences written to provide information about a certain topic. In every paragraph, there are three major parts: topic sentence, supporting sentences, and concluding sentence. So here I want to remind you with the definition of the expository paragraph. Whenever we say expository paragraph or a text, we mean it's informational. Since it's informational, then it gives information or it provides information about a specific topic. And since we're saying paragraph here, then we have to pay attention to the parts of the paragraph, which are topic sentence, supporting sentences, and concluding sentence. So, what is a problem solution paragraph? A problem solution paragraph, from its title, we can guess that I will have a problem and I have to suggest solutions for it. So, a problem solution paragraph identifies a problem or problems, but be sure that the problem or problems should talk about one topic, and recommends a plausible solution. Plausible, we mean reasonable solutions to the problems that we mentioned. This method of internal organization splits the paragraph into four easily recognizable parts. Let's see what the four recognizable parts are. First of all, we have to use a topic sentence to explore the paragraph's main idea or claim, the problem or problems that will be explored. So, the first part of the paragraph will be the topic sentence, which should introduce the main idea, or we can say the main problem sometimes. Two, we have to provide a description of the problem for the reader. We have to describe the problem. We have to tell what the problem is. Then we have to provide a description of the solution or solutions for the reader. So number 2 and 3 are the supporting sentences. In other words, we can say that we start with the topic sentence that introduces the main idea, the main topic, and that we're going to talk about is the problems and solutions. Then after it, I have to mention this in the supporting sentences, these problems and their corresponding solutions. At the end, I have to write the concluding sentence. I have to write the concluding sentence to describe whether all the solutions are applicable or whether one solution is better than the others, or I can just give my opinion or suggest something new. Simple chain to organize your paragraph. How can I organize my problem solution paragraph? This is the simplest chain that I could give to you. First of all, you start with the topic sentence. After the topic sentence, you mention problem one with its solution. Then you mention, for example, problem two with its solution. If you still have more problems, like problem three, you mention the problem three, then its solution, and so on until you finish from the problems with their solutions. After you finish, you have to write the concluding sentence. Again, I say it's a paragraph, not an essay. A paragraph, so they all should be written beside each other, not divided into parts. They should all have one form of that paragraph. Okay? Okay. Now, why don't we try to have an example of a problem solution paragraph? Let's try to write about the problems of using the internet nowadays, what problems we could face, and what corresponding solutions we can suggest. So, in the topic sentence, what should I mention? I should mention the enormous growth of the internet, since I'm talking about the growth of internet. And notice something, guys, that here I'm using phrases, not complete sentences, please. So the main idea is the enormous growth of internet, how internet is growing very fast. I'm going to mention two problems. The first problem, which is consumes time. You see, in brief, I just said consumes time. I didn't write a full sentence. And the second problem is that it leads to addiction. Leads to addiction. Just we write leads to addiction. Now I have to mention the solutions that I will mention for each problem. For the first problem, for consuming time, I will mention the solution to be aware how to search. So this way you will not waste time. And the solution for addiction, I would have to make a timetable. Make a timetable. This is the solution for the second problem. Now I have to close my paragraph with a concluding sentence. What should I mention in the concluding sentence? Use the internet wisely. This way, my organizer is perfect. I wrote the specific details. I wrote just the phrases. Okay, not more. Then now I can develop these ideas in a paragraph. Let's see how I organized or how I developed the title. I started with the title, The Internet. Since I am going to talk about the enormous growth of the internet, then I have to mention it in the topic sentence. So the enormous growth in the use of the internet over the last decade has led to radical changes in the way that people consume and share information. Okay? Although serious problems have arisen as a result of this, there are solutions. So I mentioned the main idea in 2 sentences here. Okay, and the most important one is that although serious problems have arisen as a result of this, there are solutions. I'm mentioning that. I'm saying that I'm going to mention the problems with their corresponding solutions. One of the first problems, you see this linking verb is linking word or linking a phrase, it's very important. One of the first problems of the internet is that it consumes time without any benefits. You see how I developed my idea? For instance, means for example, I have to explain more. A lot of information that is being provided by the internet distracts users. So sometimes when you're searching for something, a lot of information is displayed in front of you, so you get distracted. As a solution, this shows me that I'm going to mention the solution for the first problem. Users must be aware how to find their needed information. Further explanation, why not? For example, they have to specify the general topic they're searching about. Accordingly, the suitable links will appear in front of them so they don't have to enter random sites to find the suitable ideas. The second problem, now I'm mentioning the second problem. The second problem that the internet leads to is addiction, especially with online games and social media apps. So this is the second problem. As a result, to avoid internet addiction, so this shows me that I'm going to talk about the solution. We have to follow a timetable for using the internet reasonably. Okay, so just make a timetable. This way, you're not going to waste time. It's not going to lead you to addiction. For instance, we should go outside and do more useful activities. Not all the time we have to spend our free time on the internet. To conclude, now I have reached the concluding sentence. The right action by individuals can make the internet a safe place for everyone. So, guys, thank you for listening. I hope everything is clear for you. Now it's time for you to go and solve the grammar exercises with the writing homework on the application. Bye bye.